I'm teaching you the terms of verse, or some terms of verse, and yesterday I had it wrong. This should be section 7, page 7.1 in your notes, not 6.1. This is the 74th day, first video. And you know, before I get into these terms, these are scary terms, I want to say once again, I'm not even sure if I made that clear, that verse is a very special language. I once had a student, I think it was last year, said to me, "You've taught us a bunch of languages, not just French and Spanish and Portuguese, but you taught us how to take notes. And you taught us those abbreviations that you use, and you taught us verse." And I thought, yeah, that's right. This is a different language. And I'm giving you terms now, but I'm going to try to show you how you can actually write verse next week. All right, yesterday I showed you that verse is language that can be spoken to a beat. And there are strong beats and weak beats. Stressed syllables and unstressed syllables make those strong and weak beats. But in normal speech it's erratic. It hasn't been organized to the extent that you could actually hit a drum to it. Well, anyway, that was yesterday. I'll come back to that. Well, there's a term called metric feet. There's a new word, a new definition for the word foot. In this case, a foot is a unit of meter. And I should have an ellipsis here, because here comes a list. Kinds of metric feet. Well, these are very scary terms, but they're Greek. You know, in the chronological survey, I'm teaching about the Greeks right now. This is so timely, because the Greeks came up with these words. An iambic foot is a unit of verse that's made up with a weak beat followed by a strong beat. Weak, strong, scoop, stroke, weak, strong, ba-da, Marie, but soft. Shakespeare used this most of the time. But soft, I put an ellipsis because, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks. And on you go. As a matter of fact, later I'll tell you again, Shakespeare basically wrote in what's called iambic pentameter. Now I'll get to pentameter in a bit. Trochaic. A trochaic foot is a unit of verse or meter that starts with a strong beat. It goes strong, weak, stroke, scoop, strong, weak, Mary. The difference between Marie and Mary is the difference between an iambic foot and a trochaic foot. David. What I would do when I was teaching this is I would go around the class and I said, I'd like every one of you to say your first name and then tell me what kind of a foot it is after I get to the end of this. Now, by far the most common stress pattern in the English language is strong weak for names. But now and then I'd have somebody that would have a different name. An anaspestic foot, and one of the ways I can remember this is anaspestic, right there. Anaspestic, weak, weak, strong. Anaspestic. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house. Very famous English poem, which is all in anaspestic. I'm rather fond of anaspestic. As you're going to see, I like trimeter. I think there's something special about meter that's based on 3. Bobby Joe. Now and then, rarely, but now and then I'll have some student whose name will be weak, weak, strong. As I go around the class, I try to see, can you hear that? Can you hear the stress pattern? Now, a dactylic foot is strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, almost like a waltz. You could waltz to well, I guess you could waltz to anaspestic too, but you could certainly waltz to dactylic. Jennifer, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Jennifer it would be an example of a name, and there are lots of other ones. This is the forest primeval. A very famous poem that I'll quote a little bit more of it down here. Longfellow chose to write Evangeline in dactylic meter, strong, weak, weak. So there are 4. There are other kinds. There's I think it's called a pyrrich foot. which only has one strong beat. And it would be worth leaving a record that I feel that in one of Bob Dylan's songs, "Put on short pants, learn to dance." 20 years of school and then they put you on the day trick. I don't know. That poem, Subterranean Blues, anyway, that song of Bob Dylan's, there's a certain part of it where I feel that he goes into pyrrhic feet, which is just strong, 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 I think. I'm not too real sure about that. But anyway, there are the main ones that you need to know for my purposes at this point in the class. Well, there are also kinds of verse, or kinds of lines of verse. Tri, tetra, penta, these are Greek. 3, 4, 5, 6. There is such a thing as monometer and dimeter, but they're not that important. But anyway, in trimeter, you've got 3 feet per line. Its fleece was white as snow, and I've separated the feet. There are 3 iambic feet there. Tetrameter, and it's tetrameter, not tetrameter, but tetrameter. Tetrameter has 4 lines, or 4 feet per line, and for that childhood ditty, "Mary Had a Little Lamb," you really need to start with the word "oh" to make it real clear. But if you say, "Oh, Mary had a little lamb," "Oh, Mary had a little lamb," now you come up with 4. Pentameter, 5 feet per line. This is what Shakespeare used the most. It's a longer line. Sometimes I've wondered, is it because he had 5 fingers on his hand that he could do pentameter all the time? I'm not sure. Each one of these meters has a little bit of a different feel. But I often use that quote where Romeo sees Juliet up there and he says, "But soft, what light through yonder window breaks." Now, if you say it like that, it doesn't have that sing-song attitude. "But soft, what light through yonder window breaks." That would be a very poor reading of it, most people think, if you went like that. But you can't escape the fact that there is a beat there, and therefore this language is more magical. Hexameter, not that common, 6 feet per line. But later in the year, I think I may, I'm not sure how much I'm going to do with this wonderful poem that Longfellow has left us called Evangeline. It opens with the words, "This is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks, bearded in moss and in garments green, indistinct in the twilight, stand like druids of eld, with beards that rest on their bosom," and on it goes. A perfectly wonderful poem. This is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks, bearded in moss and in garments green and distinct in the twilight, stand. You see, it's going on in 6 feet per line, and each foot is dactylic. That's dactylic hexameter. Well, these are scary terms, but I had to get past the terms so that we can go on to actually enjoy this language. To be continued. This is Friday, so on Monday we'll maybe begin to actually write a little bit of verse, possibly.